cut grass and cassette tape. Rewind. Back when the ceiling was a sky we never thought about. When summer lasted longer than the school year, no doubt. I keep the ticket stubs, the mixtapes, cracked CD cases, Polaroids of people caught mid-laughing, blurring places. Every memory, a room I renovated. In my mind I walk the hallway slow, afraid of what I'll find. My mom's kept everything in shoeboxes under her bed. Birthday cards from '94, the words already said. I used to read them like a scripture, like a map back to then, knowing full well you can never really go there again. The neighborhoods are stranger now, same streets, different faces, same corner store, different owner, painted over traces. And I'm standing at the junction where the past meets the present, arms out wide, holding both, and neither one is pleasant. Something shifted when I wasn't paying close attention, chasing what was next. I never stopped to mention that the ground beneath the future used to feel like home. I've been living underneath the sky, can't quite reach close enough to touch the cloud, too low for open beach. The pressure isn't crushing, more a constant gentle wave, a low ceiling on my dreaming, a soft limit on my fate. Low ceiling, learning how to breathe inside this smaller space. I got a scar on my left knee from a bike on Brandon Road. Still feel the gravel in my palm, still feel the episode. We were racing to the reservoir before the streetlights came. 7 years old, invincible, the world still had no frame. Now I frame everything, I analyze the interlock, screenshot the feeling for it feeds into the catalog. Memories of muscle and minds, pulling up the seams, overworked, overstretched, holding too many scenes. There's a specific kind of grief that hasn't got a name, not for a person I lost before I left the change. For the version of yourself that woke up without weight, before the compound interest started charging on the late. Before you understood that every door you opened closed, before the future started feeling like a thing that wasn't posed. After hearing my father's laugh before he learned to be tired. Back when everything he wanted was a thing he still desired. We were just kids in the kitchen, radio on, nobody listening. Homework on the table, dinner getting cold, and nobody knew that moment was worth gold. You don't know the last time is the last time. You don't know the last laugh is the last laugh. You just live inside the minutes like they're infinite, and one day you're just standing in the aftermath. I've been living underneath the sky, I can't quite reach close enough to touch the cloud, too low for open beach. The pressure isn't crushing, a soft limit on my face. Low ceiling, learning how to breathe. Low ceiling, inside this smaller space. I've been developing the negatives in rooms with no light, watching the chemicals reveal what hides in plain sight. Every photograph a promise that the moment would hold, but the fixing agent failed me and the image went cold. I got albums full of almost full of slightly out of frame. The subject always moving at the shutter's expense again, like the camera understood what I was too close to see, that the things I tried to capture were already leaving me. There's a particular grammar to the spaces on the wall, the pale rectangles of absence where the pictures used to fall. You can read the whole biography in some bleached outlines there, in the hooks that held the weight of what a life chose to bear. I've been cataloging voids now like an archivist elect, measuring the silhouettes of everything I can't get back. Every frame I ever emptied left a shadow on the paint, the evidence of presence in the negative of sane. Something about the removing is more telling than the hang. The outline of a portrait carry more grief than the gang of images I curated back when curation had a name. Faces dissolve into lines and delay. Nothing is held long enough to stay. Moments like pictures I never could keep, blurring the edges and falling asleep. Silence develops the truth in between. Everything missing says more than it seems. Still I observe it, still I remain. Watching emotion, repeating refrain. Frames without meaning still find their place. Hanging in memory, void of a face. I've been thinking about the aperture, the width of what we let in. How the exposure time determines where the definition's thin. Open too long and everything becomes a smear of light. Goes too fast and all you capture is the surface of the night. I kept the shutter open, thought that longer meant more true. Thought that if I held the moment I'd hold more of you. But overexposure is its own erasure in the end. Too much light's the same as none when the developing descends. Now I study composition from the outside looking in. The rule of thirds applied to everything I should have been. You were always in the margins that I cropped for cleaner lines. I was optimizing framing while you're reading all the signs. The dark room has a smell I carry somewhere past the grave. Chemical and specific, like the solvent of a save. That didn't take, that couldn't fix the image to the page. Just a ghost of silver highlighting the slow dissolving age. Some absences don't announce themselves with noise. They just appear one morning in the geometry of a room you thought you knew. A hook, a pale square, a nail still holding nothing. I kept taking pictures of the frames themselves. Couldn't stop documenting the documentation of the loss. That's when I understood the frame was never the point. Faces dissolve into lines and delay. Empty frames held long enough to stay. Empty frames develops the truth in between. Empty frames, everything missing says more than it seems. I still have the frames, clean glass, good wood. Just nothing in them worth the wall anymore. Or maybe everything, depending on the light. I used to read your face like a language I learned from the start. Now I'm translating silence, deciphering gaps in the dark. We shared the same zip code, same sunrise, same side of the bed. Same fight, same forgiveness, same future still living ahead. But something shifted, drifted, like the current too quiet to name. Didn't slam, didn't shatter, just slowly, it wasn't the same. You packed boxes and stages while I rewound the footage in loops, watching two people dissolve into separate solitary truths. I'm not angry, I'm honest, which is harder to carry most days. Some departures don't storm out, they just quietly walk away. Left the key on the counter, left the scent on a pillowcase there, left a shape in the mattress, and the silence too loud not to hear. Yeah. And I know that the distance ain't measured in miles or in time. It's the moment you stop reaching and I stop trying to climb. Two people still standing inside of the same falling frame. When the gap gets familiar, does the gap get a name? Miles of quiet between us now. Rooms full of nothing, no sound. I keep reaching, but you're not around. Miles and miles of quiet. Miles and miles of quiet. See you in places you've never even been, that's the trick. Memory patches your outline over everything slick. Coffee shop corner, a laugh in the crowd, same perfume in the air. I turn into no one, just someone who moves like you there. I've been talking to versions of you I constructed in dreams, where you always come back and leave almost less than it seems. But I wake till the morning, the flat, unforgiving light, and the bed is still half empty, and I'm still relearning the right side to sleep on the right time to eat right amount to feel how much grief is appropriate, how much distance is real. You're not dead, you're just somewhere that I don't have access to reach, which is somehow the cruelest kind of loss, still inside of the beach. Miles of quiet between us now. Rooms full of nothing, no sound. I keep reaching, but you're not around. Miles and miles of quiet. Miles of quiet. I don't need you to answer, I just need to know you're somewhere warm. But the distance has a purpose, that the quiet isn't just the quiet after the storm. Miles of quiet between us now. Rooms full of nothing, no sound. I keep reaching. Miles and miles of quiet. Quiet. Sunrise creeping, shadows fleeing. Another morning, I'm not weeping. Guess my tear ducts are just sleeping. Heartbeat thumping, something's jumping. Broken heart disco. Yeah, it's a broken heart disco. I'm dancing solo. Broken heart disco. another morning, I'm not weeping. Guess my tear ducts are just sleeping. Heartbeat thumping, something's jumping. Broken heart disco. Yeah, it's a broken heart disco. I'm dancing solo. Broken heart disco. Used to call your name, felt no shame. Now it's just a game, silly little flame. Maybe I'm still bruised, a little confused, but this beat. I've been learning how the structures fail without a sound, how the foundation gives quietly before it hits the ground. Not the cinematic crumble with the dust and the debris, more the slow subsidence of a thing that used to be. I watched a building once deflate itself across a week, every morning slightly less than what it was the night antique. No explosion, no announcement, no dramatic final fall, just the incremental vacancy of wall receding wall. That's the architecture of believing, that's the blueprint of the end. Not the argument that fractures, but the silence that descends. The conversation volume dropping half a decibel a day, till you're talking to a frequency that's mostly gone away. I've been structural in my assessment, clinical and clear. Load-bearing walls identified, but still I engineer around the damage, routing traffic past the failing joint, calling it a feature till I've long forgot the point. The instruments don't register a reading on this kind, too gradual for measurement, too gentle for the mind. The collapse is in the margin, where the certain meets the blind, falling without it appearing to break. Nothing dramatic, just subtly awake. Edges dissolve into something unclear, weight of existence just quietly near. No need for panic, no reason to fight. Everything folding itself into the night. Still I'm aware of the shift in the air, holding to nothing but somehow still there. Soft in the ending, calm in the drop. Nothing is broken, it just doesn't stop. There's a terminology in engineering for the load that doesn't snap the structure but just slowly erodes. Fatigue, they call it metal, memory given at the grain. The cumulative accounting of a microscopic strain. I got fatigue lines running places x-rays couldn't find. The hairline fractures living in the architecture of the mind. Not from any single force, not from impact or event, just the compound interest charged on everything that went. And the going wasn't violent, wasn't weather, wasn't war, just a tad of small departures in the closing of a door. Each one soft enough to rationalize, to file and move ahead, till the filing cabinet's so full that nothing can be read. I've been standing in the structure long past structural advice, calling the familiar by the comfort of its price. But familiar isn't stable, and the stable isn't true. Sometimes what you're holding is just holding on to you. There is a specific gravity to the things we don't call collapse. We call them adjustments, recalibrations, periods of transition. We give them the language of intention, as if the falling was the plan. But the body knows, the room knows, the quality of light through the same window is different. falling without it appearing. Break, 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 break. Edges dissolve into something unclear. Everything folding itself into the night. Nothing is broken. It just doesn't stop. The soft collapse is the honest one. No performance, no audience, just the slow return of everything held upright by will alone. Finally, quietly, remembering it doesn't have to stand. I find you in the songs I didn't choose. Background of a playlist, middle eight, the evening news. Ambient and present, like the hum inside the walls, like the ghost of every summer living rent-free in the halls. Funny how the body keeps a ledger of its own, muscle memory encoding every place it's ever known. I don't have to think of you, you surface like a reflex, a phantom in the nervous system written in the subtext. There's a photograph I never printed, lies behind my eyes. You laughing at the table in the gold of August light. I've tried to override it with the logic of the years, but the image runs on hardware that's immune to what I fear. I've been excavating through the sediment and stone, carbon dating every layer I've been carrying alone. And at the base of every compound, every molecule and cell, there's a signature I recognize too well. Something in the atmosphere is heavier tonight. The periodic table never listed what you like, but the data doesn't lie. When the readings spike on side, you're a trace element in everything I am, present in the compounds, in the marrow, in the ground, of something that is fundamental, can't be filtered or removed. A trace element, essential to the motion and the groove. Trace element, the part of me that science has improved. I used to think that time was just a solvent, broke things down, dissolved the concentration, diluted what I found. But trace amounts don't vanish, they just shift their form and phase, rearrange the architecture, occupy new space. I renovated everything, the habits and the hours, repainted all the rooms, changed out the furniture and flowers. Told myself the half-life of a memory was short, but some isotopes are stable, and that's the kind you are. I catch it in the cadence of a stranger's side. I smile in the way a certain October holds its breath a while, in the specific way to Sundays when the light goes amber gray, in the silence after laughter when there's nothing left to say. You're the margin note I find inside a book I long forgot, the annotation in my own hand, asking what I've got. And I don't have an answer that the evidence supports, just a reading that keeps spiking past the limits on my charts. Some things don't dissolve, they just find a smaller form, settle in the silence, surface in the storm. I've been running full analysis, cross-referencing all of this, every variable accounted for, and still your name flags up. Still your name flags up. Rain on the taxi glass, your name in a missed call flash. I trace it with my thumb, then let it fade. Late train in a crowded hush, your sweater still smells like us. I'm laughing at old texts, but my chest aches. Midnight windows, holding your reflection. Every shadow feels like our confession. I'm letting you go in slow motion seconds. Midnight windows, show me my direction. Keys in a porcelain bowl, echo in an empty home. I talk to the quiet just to hear a voice. Dance shoes by the kitchen door. We don't spin in here anymore. I sway with the silence, like I had a choice. Midnight windows, holding your reflection. Every shadow feels like our confession. I'm letting you go in slow motion seconds. Midnight windows, show me my direction. You were my favorite what if. You were my sweetest almost. I close my eyes on the lift, watch us rise like smoke. Midnight windows, holding your reflection. Every shadow feels like our confession. I'm letting you go in slow motion seconds. Midnight windows, show me my direction. Connection. I've been standing at the edge of something I can't name, where the silence gets so heavy it starts sounding like the rain. And the love I thought I'd mastered is the love I can't explain. Every map I drew to find you just keeps looping back the same. I was fluent in the language of the walls I used to build. Had a library of distances, a cabinet of chilled. But you walked into the architecture and the whole thing stilled. Now I'm standing in the ruin of the fortress that I feel. See, connection is a country with no flag and no frontier. It's the static between stations when the signal isn't clear. It's the moment right before the word arrives but isn't here. That invisible geometry of almost disappeared. Something dissolves where the edges were, and I can't tell if I'm further or closer to her. Line in the distance dissolves into air. Nothing defines where it ends or begins there. Light without color, soft without shape. Time feels elastic, impossible to escape. Steps without movement, thought without sound. Everything is lost, but nothing is found. I've been moving through the static, barely holding to the thread. Every syllable I practice turns to vapor when it's said. There's a gravity between us, call it tension, call it dread, call it everything I'm carrying but never put to bed. You were standing in the doorframe like a question I had answered, like a wound that healed so cleanly that I almost forgot I was orbiting your orbit, doing damage as I danced, yeah. Calling love a kind of recklessness, the romanticist is necromancer. Now I'm watching all the edges of the picture start to blur. How I needed you so badly that the needing was the cure. How connection is a country with no border and no slur. Just the warmth of being witness, nothing less and nothing more. Nothing dramatic, just something shifts. The weight of it lifts without you knowing what it is. To build a fortress out of distance and precision, stack the bricks of self-sufficiency and call the whole thing vision. But you move like water, quiet, didn't ask for my permission. Slipped between the cracks, I cemented into every cold decision. And I'm terrified of softness, cause it looks a lot like losing. Like surrender's got a synonym, and intimacy's bruising. But the truth is I was drowning in the armor I was choosing. Every wall I built a ballad I kept casting and then losing. So I'm learning how to let the dissolution feel like breathing. How the self that I protected wasn't living, it was teething. How the love I kept at arm's length was the sky I stood beneath, and never looked up till your gravity became a kind of teaching. I've been studying the shoreline like a thesis on restraint. How the water doesn't argue with the land's repeated complaint, doesn't raise its voice or escalate, doesn't beg or plead, just returns with the precision of a thing that doesn't need. And I need it, that was always where the calculus went wrong. I was needing at a frequency too urgent and too strong, pulling at the tide instead of learning how it moves. Mistake and desperation for the evidence of proof. There's a particular exhaustion in the reaching without gain, in the outstretched arms, learning how to navigate the strain. I've been at this shoreline longer than the metaphor allows, watching how the water honors all its elemental vows. It doesn't chase the vessel, let it sail beyond the bay, doesn't catalog the debris that the current took away, just recalibrates the rhythm to the moon's indifferent pull, and returns to every shoreline empty-handed, always full. I used to call it waiting, you like it was a lesser thing, like patience was the consolation prize that loss would bring. But the ocean never loses what it's willing not to cling. I have learned to wait the way the ocean waits the shore, not with hope exactly, something older, something more. Tidal and passive. It is motion without rush, the enormous quiet power in the gathering and the hush. Tidal patience, every pull preceded by a gentle push. You left in the recession, which is just a tide and close. The way you room the pressure rises when a presence slowly goes. Not dramatic, not a breaking wave, more like the tide at deep, that almost imperceptible withdrawal into deep. And I stood there with my instruments, my charts and my control, trying to predict the pattern, trying to account for the toll. The tidal systems aren't beholden to the models that we make. They answer to a gravity that's larger than the ache. So I put the instruments away, I folded up the maps, stopped narrating every distance, cataloging every gap, started paying different attention to the quality of still, to the information carried in the water against the hill. There's a swell that builds 300 miles before it finds the coast, accumulating quietly the energy that most would never see or measure in the open of the sea. But it arrives, it always arrives. That part's enough for me. Distance isn't punishment, it's just geography. The water doesn't call the shore from halfway across the basin. It just moves, it just keeps moving, and the shore isn't waiting with its arms crossed in the dark. It's just there, solid present, letting the water decide when it's ready to return. That's the whole of it. That's the entire equation. The tide doesn't wonder if the shore will still be there. It just comes. That's what patience actually looks like. Not waiting, moving. Science of departure from the inside out. How a room recalibrates its temperature without the body that was present, without the mass and weight. How physics is indifferent to the things we designate. Your coffee cup still sitting at the angle that you left. The morning holding this position like it's caught my breath. I haven't moved the chair, I tell myself it's practical. But practical's a story and the story's geographical. I map the house by absence, now I navigate by lack. Every room a coordinate that doesn't have your back. The bathroom mirror still fogs up the way it did for two, but the fog clears into one reflection, and that one is not you. I've been studying the thermodynamics of a space, how heat disperses outward, how it leaves without a trace. Except it does leave traces, that's the part they never say. Residual and fading, but it doesn't go in a day. The instruments are accurate, the readings are precise, but precision doesn't help me with the dropping of the price of everything that's losing heat and won't return to twice. The seat still holds your temperature, the pillow holds your shape. Residual warmth is all I have before the cold escapes. I've been pressing to the surfaces like I could hold the heat, like warmth was something permanent and not just incomplete. Residual warmth, the last coordinates before the retreat. There's there's a theorem in the grieving that the textbooks never teach, about the half-life of a presence and the limits of its reach. How the warmth don't leave in linear progression, clean and straight. It pulls in certain corners, saturates specific weight. Your side of every argument still occupies the air, the unfinished conversation hovering right there. I rehearse your counterpuncture like I'm prepping for a bout, but you're not here to land it and the round just carries out. I've been sleeping on my side like there's a boundary in the bed, respecting the perimeter of someone gone ahead. Habit is a haunting of the most efficient kind. It doesn't need a presence, just the grooves you left behind. And the grooves run deep in mattress springs and door frame muscle memory, and the grocery list that still defaults to feeding too consistently. I catch myself mid-sentence and the sentence has no end, just a trailing off to frequencies too low to comprehend. Some departures don't announce themselves, they just lower the temperature 1 degree at a time until you're cold and can't remember when warm was the default. I've been standing at the thermostat, adjusting for a climate that no longer requires 2 bodies to sustain. The physics doesn't mourn, the room just redistributes, the heat just finds another place to be. The seat still holds your temperature, the pillow holds your shape. Pressing to the surfaces, the last coordinates before the retreat. The cold doesn't come all at once. That's the part that breaks you. How long the warm decides to stay. Cool light. I've been searching for the warmth in every word I ever spoke, wrapping meaning around a feeling like a hand inside a coat. Every time I tried to hold you, I was holding back the smoke. Reaching for a fire I was terrified to stoke. See, I loved you like a theory, kept it clean inside my head, where the math of it made sense and nothing messy could be said, where the syntax of connection never bled into the bed, where I engineered the distance so I never had to dread. But you stood inside my logic like a window in a wall, let the outside in the silence and the everything and all. And I felt that something cracking in the center of the hall, not a breaking more, a breathing more, standing after fall. Now there's no shade left to stand in, no soft edge left to lean on. Everything is lit, light without warmth, cutting and clean, illuminates everything left in between. Edges are sharper, shadows are thin, nothing to hide and nowhere within. Truth in the brightness, dark and exposed, everything open, nothing enclosed. Still I remain in the glow of the white, frozen in clarity, held in the light. Cold in the vision, steady and still, nothing to soften or bend to my will. So I mapped the constellations of the places that you touched, cataloged the conversations I had written off as much, had a filing system running for the feelings I detached. Every exit double bolted, every window triple latched. But love doesn't ask permission and it doesn't wait for spring. It arrives when all the armor's on and kicks in everything. And the things I kept in shadow now are caught in what you bring. Every flaw is fully visible and somehow not a sting. See, I used to think that naked meant defenseless, meant destroyed, that the parts of me left showing left the core of me annoyed. But you looked at all the evidence and nothing was avoided, just a steady kind of witness and a silence some disturbed. Now I'm learning how the coldest light's the one that tells the truth, and the truth of being loved is being known without the proof. Just the version left of me that hasn't been seen. Nothing to hide, and somehow still here, still in the light, still midnight drive. Street lights, sequences, secrets in the scenery. Review full of what we were, playing it repeatedly. Your voice in the speaker beat, echoes never leaving me. Windows down, cold air, but it doesn't bring relief to me. Heartbeat sync with the kick, but it skips when I think of you. Every lane got me drifting through phases I can't undo. Hands tied on the wheel, trying to steal what I feel inside. But every road I take just spins back to you and I. Every mile got me deeper in the past I can't outrun. Trying to silence all, but you're louder when it's numb, 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 numb. On this midnight drive, I'm chasing you through neon skies. Every turn, every sign leads me back to you tonight. On this midnight drive, no escape, nowhere to hide. Every road, every line leads me back to you tonight. Yeah. Dashboard glow on my face like a mask I'm hiding in. Conversations with your ghost, yeah, I'm losing arguments. Signal breaking in and out like the way that we fell apart. Now I'm scrolling through the dark, trying to reconnect the spark. We were coded in a language only chaos could translate. Now I'm stuck in every what if that I can't erase. Foot down on the gas, but I'm stalled in a memory. Every street got your name like it's carved in my